Meeting to order. We'll begin. Ask Commissioner Lanier to lead us in prayer.
Heavenly Father, we ask that you look over the folks down in Rio Doso, and they're continuing to deal with the fires and the flooding going on down there. We also ask that you look over the folks on the south side of the county that is dealing with the floods. And we appreciate you looking over them. We also ask that you look over our road crews that have been out for the last probably 72 hours working on those roads, doing a great job, and we appreciate that. We also ask that you look over our firefighters, our sheriff's department, all our constituents, and we ask that you look over the folks that will be traveling over the holiday weekend, and just make sure that they get home safe. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, that brings us to presentation, recognition of Lieutenant Slindy. Front and center.
Chairman, members of the commission, I'm delighted to be here before you today to recognize San Juan County Sheriff's Office Lieutenant Jared Slindy. On June 7th of 2024, San Juan County Sheriff's Office Lieutenant Jared Slindy graduated from the 290th session of the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. The FBI National Academy is a once-in-a-lifetime leadership educational experience for less than 1% of all law enforcement officers worldwide. This session consisted of U.S. international law enforcement executives representing local, state, tribal, and federal organizations. San Juan County Sheriff's Office will benefit from Lieutenant Slindy's development and his contacts throughout the country and beyond. Present before you today, we have Under Sheriff Tanner, who is an FBI National Academy graduate. Of course, Lieutenant Slindy here, who's our most recent graduate. And also we have Captain Burns here, who is a graduate of Staff and Command. I also want to point out in our audience, we also have retired San Juan County Sheriff's Captain Mark Fetzer, who is also an FBI National Academy graduate. In addition to that, we also have Captain Riker, who's a National Academy graduate. So I have a great pride in the amount of leadership from different experiences, not only from the FBI National Academy, but also from the Police Staff and Command College. So we look at that as more of a finishing school for our lieutenants as they rise into these executive levels. We see everything from resource allocation to leadership, and not to mention the networking capabilities, not only for personal value, that if you happen to be in a city and need a good friend, but on top of that, if we have a case, no matter if it's in the United States or across the world. 2 years ago, I had to reach out to a police division in Scotland in reference to one of our county residents that was being harassed. And through our FBI contacts, that I can imagine the look on the guy's face when there was a knock at the door and some Scottish policemen said, "We got a phone call from a sheriff back in San Juan County, New Mexico, that we have a harassment issue." So it has definitely expanded our investigative capabilities along with just our network and friendships. It can expand into policies that we may need, whether it's coast to coast, so we're not reinventing the wheel, but it is such a huge asset to San Juan County to see these graduates from these different institutions. I can also attest to the personal sacrifice that Lieutenant Slindy's family made. Lieutenant Slindy was gone for probably a total of about 11 weeks away from his family, not returning home one time, which he has small boys also, and his wife had to hold down the fort while he was gone. And there's all kinds of problems that arise, from broken sprinklers to air conditioners and the microwave going out. These are all things I experienced, of course, and had to make several phone calls to a lot of good friends. But we are delighted and very proud of Lieutenant Slindy, his accomplishment, and we thank his family for graciously not only allowing him to row across an ocean last year, but then the following year, we had to send him for 11 weeks to Quantico, Virginia. So that woman is a saint. And we were sure to let her know that he does not need to take any vacation anywhere beyond San Juan County for several years, which she agreed with also. So congratulations, Lieutenant Slindy. We couldn't be more proud of you. Thank you, sir. This is his diploma that he received from the U.S. Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Very well. I don't think he's off the hot seat. So, well, and does that put us over 1% in the sheriff's department with the number of graduates that we have?
Yes, it would. It would. So at our current level, we would say somewhere around 4%, somewhere around 6%, somewhere around there. Yeah.
So doing well with that.
We've already got our next candidate on deck, so we're probably looking at a window of about 2 to 3 years. So only 8 positions. There are only 8 spots annually in the state of New Mexico.
Oh, wow. And as far as competing for the blue brick, I imagine with all your experience with the Atlantic Ocean, you were a strong competitor in that for that award?
No, I didn't have a rowing brick, they had a blue brick, so no desire to swim. So.
I'm the only one that has a
That's
blue
right.
brick, so.
Tell us what that is.
So every session there, what they have is a yellow brick, it's called the Yellow Brick Challenge, the Yellow Brick Road. It's about a 6.2 mile trek through kind of the woods and running and obstacle courses and stuff like that. And so aside from that, there's other bricks that you can do while you're at the National Academy, swimming being one of them, biking and running also being a couple of the others. So I just did the yellow brick. I'm not sure if I'd float in the pool, so but
It's
yeah,
just 34 miles.
that's right. So
Just.
but yeah, I'm when I got hired on here 15 years ago, I heard about the National Academy. It's been a career goal of mine ever since. So I'm just grateful to have had the opportunity to go to that and represent San Juan County. I appreciate Sheriff, and of course you all for allowing me to go. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Do we need to do a picture?
Yeah.
I think so.
Sir.
Well, let's do a picture. He does all the hard work and we show up for a
That's
picture.
good.
That's.
I think that's not a bad idea. Just saying.
Everybody together like their friends, big smile, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yeah, answer. Yes. Good job.
All right, so that brings us to needing to go into the Board of Finance. I'll stand for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I'm been moved and seconded that we go into the Board of Finance. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That brings us into the Board of Finance. Brian Myers, welcome.
Chairman Backstead, Commissioners, thank you. Good afternoon. Ryan Myers, Chief Deputy Treasurer, San Juan County. I have a short resolution to put before the Commission. The Treasurer's Office is seeking authorization or approval of Resolution 242505, authorizing fees charged by the San Juan County Treasurer's Office. So there are 2 fees under consideration, a $30 NSF fee for non-sufficient payments. And then the second fee would be for mobile home placing liens on mobile homes, which is a fee of $25. Carol Talby, County Treasurer, recently went to a Treasurer's affiliate meeting, and this would put us more in line with what other counties are doing in the state as far as charging these type of fees to recoup costs that we incur as staff members and also on the banking fee side. So with that, very short, I stand for any questions you may have.
Does anybody have any questions? So this is to cover expenses in regarding going after someone that writes a check that doesn't have sufficient funds to cover it.
Chairman Beck said that is correct.
And what are the fees right now?
Chairman Beck said, Commissioner Lanier, we are currently charging $30 for NSF fees regarding McGee payment NSF fees only. This would apply to all other departments, including the treasurer's office.
Okay.
I'll stand for a motion.
I move that we adopt the resolution number 242505, authorizing fees charged by the San Juan County Treasurer's Office. Second.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Appears it passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
I move that we go out of the Board of Finance.
I'll second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Brings us back into our regular meeting. Approval of agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, there are no changes tonight.
Does anybody wish to move anything out of consent to the regular or to new business? I'll stand for a motion regarding the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda for July 2nd, 2024.
I'll second.
Having been moved and seconded, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is as presented. Brings us to the consent agenda. Item number 1, consideration of regular meeting minutes for June 11th, 2024. Number 2, consideration of resolution number 242501, disposition of county surplus. Item number 3, consideration of fiscal year 25 client fees for alternative sentencing division programs. Item number 4, consideration of resolution numbers 242502, resolution number 242503, and resolution number 242504, supporting New Mexico DOT fiscal year 25 local government road fund awards and associated cooperative agreements. Item number 5, consideration of fiscal year 24 budget adjustment number 16 as resolution number 242507.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as it is.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any opposition, I presume it passed unanimously. Brings us to new business agenda, item number 1, which is ratification of emergency declaration declaring San Juan County, New Mexico to be an emergency area as a result of severe storms and flooding. Welcome, Mr. Mestis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Good to be here with you tonight. On June the 21st, San Juan County, excuse me, experienced an extensive rainstorm, which caused extensive damage to our roads, our infrastructure, property, ditches, culverts, and mostly our electric utility in our Tri-City and County area. Namely, in addition, the Hammond Conservancy ditch as well. And as the emergency manager for San Juan County, on Monday, thank you, Mr. Chair, you signed the declaration of emergency, which I filed to the State of New Mexico Emergency Operations Center. Tonight, I would like the commission, Mr. Chair, to ratify that emergency declaration. I also have Michelle Truvitillan with me tonight, the floodplain manager, to help answer questions if needed. And with that, ask for your approval or ratification, and I'll stand for any questions.
Are we expecting to add more to it with the storms that came after this? And can we add those storms to this?
Mr. Chair, we met with FEMA yesterday, and they assured us that any additional storm damage will be added to this declaration.
Okay, and we're confident we're over the 600,000 threshold?
Mr. Chair, yes, we have met our threshold of over 566, and we're approximately at $1.2 million of estimated damage at this time.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
Mr. Chair, no, we went out and I think Mike and Nick Perrell, we came out and visited with some of those residents, did a little tour and, man, the destruction was just, it was just crazy how some of it, how it worked out. One of them, a horse trailer a double axle horse trailer floated right down between two pins and didn't scratch either side and blocked off everything. And unfortunately, the lady down below, she got part of the worst part of the flood in her yard and stuff. But I appreciate you taking the time to go after those funds and do all that hard work for those folks.
You're welcome, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, I'm on San Juan County Museum Board, and Salmon Ruins had quite a storm in their area, and it uprooted trees and some of the structures, the roofs caved in. So one thing that Salmon Ruins did is they took care of some electrical poles prior to this happening, which was something that they did before the storm hit, and it worked out okay.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Totticini, yes, and Salmon's Ruins was visited, and they will qualify under the county government portal as well. So they'll be covered for their property damage.
What all does this cover?
Mr. Chair, for what the emergency declaration is for the government agencies, the entities, City of Farmington, City of Bloomfield, City of Aztec, San Juan County proper, so that we can be made whole again, clean up overtime, manpower, debris, things like that, that our government officials have spent time cleaning up in relation to the storm. An example is electric utility, having to repair all those utility poles that snapped in half, and all the time that it took to get the infrastructure back in order.
Are there any resources or anything that our citizens can reach out for? I know, we're reaching out. Is there anything that our citizens can do to reach out to the state or anything like that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll defer that question to Mr. Stark, as FEMA was here yesterday and they explained the process.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and Mr. Mestis was out on travel, so myself and Ms. Truby Tillin filled in to meet with Department of Homeland Security officials from the state and FEMA, and we toured both public infrastructure, which is specifically what this declaration is covering, is just public infrastructure. Due to the state constitution, private property, we're not able to make improvements or repairs to a private property or a private entity. And so there is a potential opportunity for FEMA to look at destruction within a community and to see if there's an opportunity for what's called individual assistance. That's not something that's available to us through the state because of the state constitution requirements. And so they were out surveying damage to see if that's an opportunity. And so they're going to gathered a lot of evidence yesterday and pictures, and we walked a lot of properties, and they'll gather all that information, and then they'll be reporting back to us as to whether or not there would be any opportunities for private property owners to access assistance that way. In the interim, they strongly encourage residents, private properties that were incurred flooding, to reach out to their insurance carriers to see what coverages they have and to try to seek remediation that way. And that always is the first step and path forward, even if there is a potential opportunity for any kind of FEMA assistance. But at this point, it's too early in the game to know exactly where we stand with that level of assistance.
And I have a shameless plug, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. National flood insurance, as well as private flood insurance, is available to anyone, whether they're in the floodplain or not. Many of these residences may not have even been in an identified flood hazard area, but because of the way the storm reacted, because of the way that different encroachments and barriers occur, then you get shifting in this flooding. So I highly encourage anyone, and if you can spread the word as well, if they don't have flood insurance as part of their insurance package, they're not going to be covered by their homeowners for flood unless they have a certain disaster package attached, but they should find out what they have. Because ultimately, when FEMA does look at you, they're looking at, did you apply to insurance? Did you get your insurance back? We're going to make you whole on the other side. So if we did get that, you know, cross your fingers, knock on wood, we still would need to have that insurance in place. We'd still have to have that insurance component complied with. And that's what they told us on the public side as well. If we have insurance on something, it has been insured, we have to pull that insurance on it. We can't avoid the insurance and just do this.
Mr. Chair, to add to your question about what assistance have we tried to provide with the direction of Mr. Stark, he did provide landfill drop off for green waste, and so the county extended that to the 3rd of July at 5 o'clock, I believe. So we tried to help citizens so they could help with their cleanup. So we provided that. Not that it helped, but might have helped some citizens as we continue to provide sandbags and make them available to our citizens as well in several areas of the county. And then just some additional information from a homeowner that I spoke to today, said that State Farm told him that they would cover his roof with his shingles and his hail damage and his broken windows. And everybody that the State Farm agent had visited said they were going to cover them. So there is some light at the end of the tunnel for those homeowners as it pertained to roofs and windows and stuff like that. Ms. Tillen will tell you, Mr. Stark, from our visits with FEMA, a lot of the damage is landscaping and things like that. That's something that they won't cover regardless, if I'm correct on that. So that's just something the homeowners are going to have to deal with on their own, unfortunately. Anything to add to that?
And that covers with us too. So the trees that are down at Salmon, those are debris removal. They won't be replaced by them, but they will pay for the debris removal. And then the roof at Salmon is covered after their insurance, after the insurance covered. So will be made whole on our deductible. Any costs aren't covered. So that'll be replaced.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner McDaniel, I do want to report to you that I have been keeping up with Sanasti chapter. And as of an hour ago, they're completely back to normal. They don't have any more additional issues. They have roads washed in mud, but their alert team is not responding anymore. And they're getting some needed rest at this time.
Thank you. Thank you for all you did there.
And Mr. Chairman, one other item we did, the Red Cross was activated. I did provide assistance to 3 or 4 homes and property owners to assist them with displacement that they incurred. So that was also another resource that was provided. And they also participated yesterday in the walkthrough with the state and FEMA officials. Mr. Chair, one additional, I keep bringing stuff up, one additional item and commission, Highway 64, the bridge at the state line going to Tisnos Pass, it was completely washed out. So there's extensive damage to that. It's going to have to be replaced as well as the roadway through that. There is a detour north to the Four Corners so they can get around through Colorado into New Mexico. But as of now, it's been closed for 6 days and they don't have an estimated time of repairs. So that remains closed as well. Kept up with the Navajo Nation Emergency Manager. They're dealing with the same thing, roads and mud and washed out roadways as well. So dealing with it, Colorado, Four Corners as well. So just what we're dealing with right now.
Any other questions? Stand for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we ratify the emergency declaration declaring San Juan County, New Mexico to be an emergency area.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any of those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Brings us to item number 2, consideration of notice of intent to amend and restate San Juan County Ordinance number 95, business registration ordinance. Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Staff recommends updates and changes to the business registration ordinance, which was adopted by the Commission in 2016. And the proposed changes include exempting cannabis-related businesses from business registration. And that's because they're already licensed by the state, so it's not necessary here. Number 2, references to agricultural businesses are removed to reflect state statute because they're exempt. An inspection by San Juan County Fire and Rescue is not required if the business is not open to the general public or has no employees on the premises. And number 4, references to the combined reporting system number, which is the CRS number, will be changed to the BTIN number, which is the business tax identification number. And that's just because they've changed what they call it. The changes are shown in a red line version that I've included in your materials. It's actually not red, it's blue and black for some reason, but those are the changes. Number 10 looks, it's completely lined out, but that's because it's in another section where it actually shows the changes regarding the fire inspections. If you approve the notice of intent to amend and restate ordinance 95, the legal department will schedule publication of the ordinance as required, and adoption of the amended and restated ordinance number 95 will be placed on the July 23rd agenda.
So today's just for notice of intent to publish.
Yes, and it'll be published twice in the newspaper.
Mr. Chair. I think this is a silly question. So if we post it and then if we go back and make any changes to it after that, then we would have to re-post it and
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lanier, that's a good question. If the change is substantial, then I think we would need to publish it. But if it's just a minor change, if there's, say, spelling errors, or if it's not substantive, then you could go ahead and approve it at the 23rd meeting of July.
Any other questions? I'll stand for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the notice of intent to amend and restate San Juan County Ordinance number 95, business registration ordinance.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, it passes unanimously. Brings us to item number 3, which is consideration of adoption of San Juan County Ordinance number 125, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 101, which authorized the execution of an intergovernmental agreement and a project participation agreement to accept as fiscal agent a grant up to $2,350,000 from the New Mexico Economic Development Department for procurement of expansion to the Pesco facility located in San Juan County. Mr. Sawyer.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I promise I'll never have this long a title again. So in 2019, the commission adopted ordinance number 101, which made the county fiscal agent for a $2,350,000 grant from the State Economic Development Department for an expansion to the Pesco facility. The project has been successfully completed and is ready to be closed out. There's a state regulation that requires us to repeal LEDA ordinances once the projects are finished. So that's why we have to adopt ordinance number 101 or 125, which would repeal ordinance 101. A notice of intent to adopt was approved by the commission at the June 11th meeting, and the notice was published in the Tri-City Record on Friday, June 14th, 2024. Staff requests the commission adopt ordinance number 125, which repeals ordinance number 101.
Do we have to have a hearing or anything?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I don't believe we do.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the San Juan County Ordinance number 125 and ordinance repealing ordinance number 101, which authorized the execution of an intergovernmental agreement and a project participation agreement to accept as fiscal agent a grant of up to 2,350,000 from the New Mexico Economic Development Department for procurement of expansion to the Pesco facility and located in San Juan County.
I'll second that.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any opposition, I presume it passed unanimously. Brings us to item number 4, which is its cousin, consideration of adoption of San Juan County Ordinance number 126 and ordinance repealing ordinance number 86, which authorized the execution of an intergovernmental agreement and a project participation agreement to accept as fiscal agent a grant of $200,000 from the New Mexico Economic Development Department for procurement of agricultural design services for a warehouse expansion to the Rathon Dene facility located at the Navajo Nation's Industrial Park in San Juan County, New Mexico. Mr. Sawyer.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, in 2014, the commission adopted ordinance number 86, which made the county the fiscal agent for a $200,000 grant from the State Economic Development Department for architectural design services for a warehouse expansion to the Rathon facility. The project was completed in 2018, and the county's duties as fiscal agent have ended. Similar to the last ordinance, state regulation requires us to repeal LEDA ordinances once the projects are finished. A notice of an intent to adopt was approved by the commission at the June 11th meeting, and the notice was published in the Tri-City Record on Friday, June 14th, 2024. Staff requests the commission adopt ordinance number 126, which repeals ordinance 86.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt San Juan County Ordinance number 126 and ordinance repealing ordinance number 86. Is that all I have to read?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any opposition, I presume it passed unanimously. Brings us to item number 5, which is consideration of notice of intent to adopt San Juan County Ordinance number 127, the nuisance abatement ordinance. Mr. Sawyer.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, ordinance number 127 establishes a procedure to investigate a suspected nuisance, adopt a resolution when a nuisance has been determined, and then serve the owner of the property. The owner has the right to object, request a hearing before the Board of County Commissioners, and appeal the County Commission's determination at District Court. Then, if the owner fails to remove the nuisance, the county will remove it at the owner's expense. This is basically an ordinance which codifies state statute number 3-18-5. But we've included provisions for voluntary compliance in our ordinance, which don't exist in the state statute. And this ordinance is envisioned as a very, very rare event that would, if there is a nuisance property, let's say where there's squatters, there's risk of fires being set, drug dealing occurring, then the county would investigate it and then attempt to get voluntary compliance from the landowner. And if that fails, then the the county would come to you, present the facts, and then if you feel that it is a nuisance, then you can pass a resolution declaring it a nuisance. And at that point, the landowner would have the opportunity to come forward and contest that at another meeting. And if you decided, if you agreed with the landowner, then you could repeal it. If you didn't, then it would go forward, and then the landowner would have yet another attempt to appeal the determination to district court. So there's a lot of safeguards provided, and all of this is according to statute. So if the notice of intent to adopt is approved, the legal department will schedule publication as required, and adoption of the ordinance will be placed on the July 23rd meeting agenda. So it'll be published twice in the Tri-City Record before that date. So staff asks for permission to publish the notice of intent to adopt this ordinance.
Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chair, just to be very, very clear, that would be a last resort, right?
Yes, it would be a last resort. It would be, staff would attempt to obtain compliance or get the situation resolved. And if that didn't work, then they would come to the commission, and then you could make the decisions.
So then for each ordinance, or let's see, for whatever building or what we're looking at, for each one of those, it would have to, at last resort, it would come to the commission. So the commission's not going to get hit with like 10 of them all at one time.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lanier, no, that the intent is really to make it very, very rare. It would be
And then
hopefully a few times a year, if that.
And then my only other question is, what if let's say the property owner is deceased and we can't find, any inheritance?
In that case, we would still come before you and ask for the resolution. And at that point, the resolution would be set, and if no one showed up, then it would go ahead and we could move forward. That's part of the problem, is a lot of these properties, we can't find an owner, and then we can't move forward, and it's causing a real problem in the county.
All right.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Lanier, if I could, I'd like to turn to our Community Development Director, Ms. Truby Tillin, yes. And just kind of
I know it's still hard to catch it.
just outline the steps we go through today. And so this would be a tool in the tool bag, but it'd be the last tool that would be utilized to deal with one example that you just brought up, a deceased landowner, to where we don't have anybody to contact, and we have this permanent eyesore in the community that we don't have a way to deal with it. So if you could just outline all of the voluntary compliance steps we go through today before we would get to even bringing a project or a property to you for consideration.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, currently, when we get a report, because we don't really seek these things out, they come to us. We don't even have to look for them. So when we get a complaint, we investigate it. If we find there is a violation of existing codes, then we reach out to the existing person on the property as well as the landowner. Sometimes there isn't a landowner we can reach. They don't exist. They have no contact information. Mysteriously, the taxes get paid. It never goes to a tax lien sale. And then we're stuck with contacting people who don't exist. We get returns, all of that. On the other hand, maybe it's a property that we do know the owner and we're contacting them. We're trying to get them to come into voluntary compliance through our numerous programs. If they're income qualified, we try to put them into the cleanup program where we verify their income. If they are within the boundaries of that income verification, it's not extremely high, but it is high. It's the same as housing. Then we will turn around and put them on a list. Once they paid the fees to the dump, which is a payment plan if they need to, so, as long as they need, we'll put them on the list to have Public Works come out and destroy the mobile home that's in question, or clean up the trash kind of thing. But then if they won't comply with that, won't give us the income, don't want to play with that, their trash is treasure, or their mobile home, they're gonna fix it up, but that never happens. We continue to monitor, we give them so much time, then we rewrite another letter, then we end up in court after that. Then court sends them back and we start all over again for about a year is how long that process takes to go from writing the first letter of contact to the court, end of the court session. At that point, we start over again with the next year. And we have several that are in year 3 of noncompliance.
So, Mr. Chair, so you had one little piece in there. You were talking about the taxes being paid, say, on a deceased property owner.
Mm-hmm.
So would that be like a squatter going and paying the tax so they can remain in there?
Could be. We have no way of knowing. There's nobody, they don't really track who paid it. They just track it got paid.
Okay.
So there's not really a follow-up that we can piece that we can grab that from. But it doesn't matter because the taxes are paid, so it's not going to tax lien.
Right.
So this ordinance, what it would do would give us another option. Instead of revolving through court multiple times, and again, it's a long process to get to this with a lot of options, a lot of outs for the homeowner. We're trying to work with people. We're not trying to send them to court. We don't want the extra paperwork. I guarantee you. It's extra work for everybody. We would like people to come into voluntary compliance. We try to give them resources as much as we can. Then we get to this point, instead of having to continue for years in court process that's going nowhere, we now could take these abandoned buildings, because we're not talking somebody lives in this. We're talking a structure that has no one living in it other than the rats and the mice and the other little creatures. This is not something anybody's going to live in. It's not something anybody's living in currently that we're evicting. These are structures that are abandoned pretty much. They're not to utilities, because then they wouldn't come into our purview because they had a utility to them. So these structures, maybe the owner of the land doesn't exist any longer and there are no recipients of the land, no clear ownership anywhere. Maybe it's in probate for 5-10 years. We have several like that.
Partially burnt out.
Yeah, burnt, halfway destroyed. No one's repaired it. No one plans to repair it. They say they do, but they never pull a permit. They never do anything on it. Years later, it's still there. We end up with squatters, we end up with problems. The community's calling because they think it's an eyesore and it's a problem to them with the squatters, with the people who are transient through there for whatever reasons they're there. They find needles, they find debris and trash, feces, that kind of stuff. They don't want that next door to them. Now we would have an option to bring before you with our research, with all that year of work we've done, without any type of compliance, for you to review and make a decision off of. At that point, they're still going to have, if someone comes forward, they're still going to have the option to come before you and say, hey, I just bought the property, I'm going to clean it up, or I plan to clean it up, I just found out I own it, that kind of stuff. You guys can still give them time. Or you can completely say, okay, fine, we're going to wait on that. And we'll start our process all over again if they don't. And then a year later, we'll come back before you and say, hey, here we are again. And you have the option to revisit that. So there's nothing in this that doesn't give the people who own the property right owner has so many options to come before you, to not even get before you, before they end up here.
All right, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I would also add, this is not new territory for San Juan County in terms of ordinances here locally. The city of Farmington, city of Aztec have a similar ordinance. So that tool is in their tool bag as well. And so we actually are just, utilizing state law and with a few enhancements to provide more due diligence and more kind of guardrails to make certain that this is used on a very limited basis. And it's not administrative. It's not going to happen at the staff level. It's coming to the county commission for review and approval. So
This mirrors state statute.
Mr. Chairman, yes, it's pretty much verbatim. The only part that was added was the voluntary compliance portion, where it requires staff to attempt to get voluntary compliance.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we pass the notice of intent to adopt San Juan County Ordinance 127, the nuisance abatement ordinance.
A second.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any, those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, I presume it passed unanimously. Brings us to item number 6, which is request for approval of memorandum of agreement with State of New Mexico Administrative Office of the Courts, Department of Therapeutic Justice. Jennifer Mitchell.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. You will probably recall a few months ago, I was before you with Krista Edwards, or Krista Lawrence, her maiden name is Edwards, sorry. Krista Lawrence with the 11th Judicial District to talk to you about a pilot project that we were engaged in with the Administrative Office of the Courts, Department for Therapeutic Justice, on risk needs responsivity for providing kind of right-sized services to folks who are justice involved and in our system because of, whatever circumstances they have engaged in. Since that time, circumstances have changed and the 11th has withdrawn from the pilot project. However, we, as the county's misdemeanor compliance program, are continuing to be involved with that pilot project. And the scope has somewhat changed in terms of at what point we're conducting the services, the screening services. But all of that burden is falling on the county misdemeanor compliance staff. And as a result, the AOC has offered generously to provide funding for us to be able to contract with somebody to provide those screening services for us. So I come before you today to ask for your approval to engage in this memorandum of understanding. And I stand for questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the memorandum of agreement with State of New Mexico Administrative Office of the Courts, Department of Therapeutic Justice.
I'll second.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any, those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, I presume it passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brings us to item number 7, which is consideration of resolution number 242506, adopting the New Mexico Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan. Mr. Smith.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, it's that time of year again for the annual submission of our Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan, or ICIP. The ICIP is a plan provided on an annual basis to the State of New Mexico Local Government Division and provides the following information: an entity's planning process, goals, trends, inventory, 5-year project summary, including project priority, description, budget, possible funding sources, operating expenditures, and implementation schedule. In addition, San Juan County is required to identify the top 5 capital projects to earmark for the governor's funding consideration during the 2025 legislative session. It seems a little bit early. They moved it up this year by a little over a month. The deadline is July 12th for submission, so Friday next week. Input to the plan was garnered through 2 public hearings that were held on June 12th, 2024 and June 13th, 2024. That first meeting was here at the County Administrative Building, and the second meeting was at Lower Valley Senior Center. Additional feedback was also taken in through email and social media comments. I'm happy to report that the following projects were deleted from last year's version of the list because they were fully funded: County Road 4990 improvements, the North Kirtland Heights wastewater study, cold mill and chip seal resurfacing of County Road 7900, and the bridge improvements on County Road 3500, Bridge 8111, and that was a construction project. This year, the following projects have been added to the list: San Juan County Clerk's expansion and election security upgrades, County Road 6675, Bridge 8113, bridge rehabilitation, that's the APS bridge out in Kirtland, and an indigent columbarium of remembrance.
Staff additionally made updates to the estimated costs of certain remaining projects due to anticipated inflation, as well as renamed the prior year Rail to Trails construction to the Lower Animas Valley Trail construction. Staff requests direction of the priorities and subsequent approval of Resolution 242506 for San Juan County's 5-year list of potential capital project and a prioritization of projects for this year's upcoming legislative session. And that's all I have. Stand for any questions.
Any questions,
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner?
this, columbarium, is that the first one that will ever be done in the county?
I believe so. I don't know if Megan called it, well, yeah, I know we don't have another one in the county, but I can also tell you that I think they're semi-rare. You don't really find columbariums of this nature very many places, I don't think.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, no, columbariums in a smaller county population size wise are not that frequent. This is something that the city of San Francisco has. Those kinds of places have these columbariums, but not a county of our size population wise. So it'd be very special.
Hmm,
Yeah.
okay.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Totocini, and Ms. Cullip, I believe that this would be the only one in the state that would be specific to recognizing and remembering the indigent population, those that have been unclaimed.
Yes.
Which we're responsible for under state law.
Yes, so I did confirm with the healthcare affiliate at the New Mexico Counties Conference in June. I had raised the question, does anybody have a columbarium? I was trying to get a quote out of them, and none of them have ever done it. So this would be the first in the state of its kind, yes.
And I just want to say, so St. Mary's has a columbarium, but it's private. So that this is the first for indigent.
Yes, yeah, First Presbyterian Church has a columbarium. I mean, it's common practice for churches, but not so common for indigent burial, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just add, just for clarification purposes, just because a project is on this list, this is just a planning tool. So placing any project on this list is just getting it out there for future planning. By no means, obligates the commission to funding it. We still have to go through the normal project funding process. Capital outlay is a tool, as you know, grants that we apply for. So just because a project's on this list doesn't mean that it's committed to going anywhere other than just it's been planned out, which is part of our normal internal process. But then the state of New Mexico also requires that we submit an infrastructure capital improvement plan to them on an annual basis. So I just thought I'd share that with you. But I do appreciate that feedback on the columbarium of remembrance actually came from public input at one of our meetings. So it's nice to see that those projects are making the list. And of course, all these are up for your consideration as to whether or not they're on the list and what order and priority they should have.
Very well. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I guess including that, it's very compassionate because that person mattered, but they had they're indigent and they probably, nobody remembered that. But I think that it's something that's good for us, for our area, because you don't hear about that. I had to look it up in the dictionary.
I'll stand for a motion.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the consideration of resolution number 242506, adopting the New Mexico infrastructure capital improvement for 2026 to 2030.
I'll second.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any opposition. I presume it passed unanimously. Thank you. Brings us to item number 8, which is consideration of August and September meeting schedule. Mr. Stark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The Bloomfield School District is conducting a special mill levy election. The county clerk made us aware of that at the last regular meeting, and it would require canvassing of the election on a day between August 26th and the 30th, which is 6 to 10 days after the election. So we've looked at the schedule, and staff would recommend, right now we just have one meeting in August due to movement of meetings in anticipation of needed adjustments throughout the year. You all took action on that the very first meeting of the year. That meeting's on August 13th. So our recommendation would be we could fit within the window of the 26th to the 30th by moving the September 3rd meeting, which is the day after Labor Day, to Tuesday, August 27th at 4 p.m. That would give us 2 week separation between the August 13th meeting and this meeting, or the proposed meeting. And so that would be our proposal to you. And we could certainly stand for any questions or alternative dates and times that you might have.
Sounds great to me. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the August, September meeting schedule.
Second that.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I presume it, not hearing any, I presume it passed unanimously. It brings us to our report from County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Just a brief update. Mr. Mestis alluded to the fact that we were able to work with Waste Management to extend the green waste program to Wednesday at 5 p.m. And I did receive numbers from Mr. Vincent, who's the landfill manager, yesterday. And as of Monday morning, we had 413 residents who had utilized that service, delivering 209 tons of green waste up to the landfill. So I think that program has been well utilized, and we were thankful to hear that Waste Management was willing to extend that for another 2 days before the 4th of July holiday. And then Commissioner Totticini actually asked before the meeting tonight about how the Four Corners Freight Rail project is coming. As you know, that's a project that the county, as well as the Navajo Nation and our local entities, have been involved with for a couple of years. We received a grant to have a feasibility study completed to see if it is feasible to bring a rail spur up from the I-40 corridor to provide new import and export opportunities for our area and new jobs to our area. That grant is coming to a conclusion here at the end of the year. And so we're working on a couple input meetings and really kind of final report presentation meetings. So we got those finalized last week, and just want to make sure you're aware of them. But August 21st, we would be at the city of Farmington at the Civic Center. We think around 11 o'clock a.m. to provide a presentation there. We then would travel down that evening to Newcomb High School, where we had a previous info meeting on freight rail. And that would be, I believe, at 6 o'clock. And then a freight rail meeting the following evening over at Crown Point. That's Navajo Technical University. So that's being scheduled as we speak. I'll make sure the times are 100% accurate and get that information out to you. And I want to make sure you save some space on your calendar for attendance at those events. That's been a project of significant economic importance that we've been working on, and we're getting ready to come to a conclusion on. So I can stand for any questions you might have. Otherwise, that concludes my report tonight.
Very well. Brings us to reports from elected officials.
Mr. Chair, tomorrow is the funeral of Ben Montano. He was a graduate of Farmington High School, and he's a Latino who kind of acculturated to the Navajo area. I guess he used to work in the trading posts, and back in the day, he learned Navajo because, you come to a counter and you had to point out what product you wanted. So, it forced him to learn the language, and I remember him telling me that he also knew some little parts of the Ute language, and because he worked in various trading posts. But he was a businessman there in the Shiprock area, and at one time owned El Navajo Garage, and he had the facility where he rented it out to the Bamboo Restaurant and had a video store. He had a gas station there, but he was quite a good citizen and a good businessman. So, he lived to be a good 83. But I didn't realize he graduated from Farmington High School till I read that. But his funeral is tomorrow. Thank you.
Any other elected officials?
Chairman and members of the commission, I had reported to you at the last meeting that we were anticipating a recount. We did receive the order from the state canvassing board. Our recount will be on July 9th at 9 a.m. and it's for County Commission District 3 race. And then we also, each county in the state is drawn a precinct to do a voting system check / audit, as we call it. And we received one precinct this time and one race that we will be auditing on July 10th, starting at 8 in the morning. And this will all take place in our early voting room. That's it.
What precinct was it?
50. And the race was County Commission District 5. And those are all drawn at random. So.
Very well.
Thank you.
Any other elected officials? I'll open it up to department heads. Any department heads? All right, I think that's a first.
Not gonna roll it, Dave. 5 minutes late.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I believe there's congratulations for Ms. Commissioner Terry Fortner. She is the president-elect for New Mexico Association of Counties. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So that brings us to comments input from the general public. Comments are accepted in person, limited to 3 minutes, and to subjects the commission has not previously discussed or formal action has not been taken. No formal action will be taken at this meeting that relates to comments or input from the general public. I'll open it up for any comments from the general public. Come on up and to the lectern and state your name for the county clerk. And
my name is Carol Clore of the Clore Hay Farm. And thank goodness I have a lot of friends in this county. I had 2 meetings at my home, which I had very good representation from the county members. They pointed me in the direction that I hope I can get a little bit of help for our farm. And Michelle, I want to speak to you because we did not have flood insurance. So I just want to tell you, thank you very much for caring about the people. I mean, I was impressed with everybody that came. That's all.
Thank you.
any other comments? Come on up.
Good evening.
Name.
Y'all doing the same? You all right? Get over to West Hamlin, my part of the country.
Do you mind stating your name for the county clerk?
I'm sorry, I get on. My name is Steve Wommel. I reside at 48 Road 5250. And first of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stark, Mr. Chairman Lanier, and others who came to my home and had taken a look at the devastation I had right there on the West Hamlin. I got the brunt of it. I was the first one when that Warren Canyon ran. And I mean, it did run. If you could do CFS on that one, I couldn't even tell you what the cubic feet per second was coming down the road. Which is indicated, of course, I had a stock trailer that was moved about 85 feet. And it flooded our place pretty good. And of course, we don't have flood insurance down there. But luckily our home was saved. But I noticed an individual, he had just left, his name is Cameron, I can't remember his last name, but he lived right at the end of that, of course, where all that water backed up. And I mean, it backed up, and he had a debris field probably 50 yards by 50 yards wide. And so there's other folks who've endured far more than what I endured, my family. My wife, they're off 48 Road 5250. But, we have these floods every once in a while. We can say, well, it's an act of Mother Nature, whatever the case might be, but things do happen. But when county leaders step up to the plate, said, let's see what we can do. And I think as a constituent of San Juan County and being a taxpayer, of course, as well, that we all work together and we provide solutions to a problem. And this might be something that could happen again. And how do we address that in the future? Well, I can probably get flood insurance for one thing. That'd probably work. That'd probably solve a lot of my problems. Right now, we're going through the cleanup phase, matter of fact, today. And I've got a lot of pipe, 2 3/8 pipe and so on. I've laying down on the ground and some other things that happened in my place. And I almost lost about $33,000 worth of beef. That's 8 butcher steers I have sold. Yeah, $33,000. Pretty hard to hit for, in the pocketbook. But by God's grace, I was able to round those things up in the middle of a hailstorm. They say like herding cats in a hailstorm. I've seen it and I've done it firsthand. But I got them all gathered up and we got them in the corner and stuff. And I delivered one for butcher yesterday, matter of fact. So, but again, I think I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you. Taking the time to come to my house, have a glass of iced tea, bring out some maps, and we discuss things. Again, we discuss how we can provide solutions to a problem. But on a good note, as I conclude here right quick, I have Lucky Lucy. You often wonder, who's Lucky Lucy?
I knew that.
Well, Lucky Lucy was one of my favorites, French hen, that was spared from that of the flood. She peered her head up the next Saturday morning after, of course, it happened on Friday. And she stuck her head up and I said, my gosh, I have a living hen. And guess what? She had an egg intact, still sitting on it. Tried to get a photo of it, Mike, but he wouldn't agree on it. But anyway, all in good, really. We can laugh at things. We can look back and say, hey, look, let's see how we can do things maybe a little different to help constituents of San Juan County. And if you can get any FEMA, boy, we'd appreciate that. And that, of course, that's the decision at their hands. Your hands are out of that deal. So, but I hope and pray, because there's a lot of landowners that are far off, or worse off than what happened to me. So, okay, my thoughts and prayers are with them, and as they recover as well. Some homes were completely swept off, foundations and mobile homes, yeah, and stuff and so on. But anyway, well, I've taken enough time. I thank you very much again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Come on up.
Evening, Commissioners. My name is Keegan Mackenzie Chavez. I'm with the New Mexico Economic Development Department. I'm your Northwest Regional Rep, and I just wanted to thank you for being willing to be the fiscal agent on these LEDA projects. And just want to let you know how great it is to work with Manager Stark and Deputy Manager Saavedra. And we appreciate the collaboration, and we hope there's more to come. But thank you so much.
Send them our way. We're ready. Any other comments? Not seeing any and having exhausted our agenda, I'll declare the meeting adjourned.